to insightful addresses on topics critical for today's learners and professionals. First, we have Dr. Rishi Bhatnagar, Chairman, IET Future Tech Panel and Chairman, CII IoT Summit. I request sir to please come up on the stage. I also request Professor Dr. Radha Tamal Goswami, Pro Vice Chancellor, Adamas University, to join us for felicitating Dr. Rishi Bhatnagar on behalf of Rice Adamas Group and Adamas University. Sorry. Sir will be speaking on entrepreneurship in the AI world. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Yeah.
Okay. So he's suggesting this will be better. So while the time is over, okay, the program was supposed to be scheduled till 1:10. And we are already at 1:10, but I have come all the way from Delhi to interact with all of you, so I'll take my time. Okay. So I'll try to finish it in 15 minutes. So I was the global head for digital business at Tech Mahindra. And Anand Mahindra was working on Reva car, E2O, the electric car, which he sells as an electric car, and I wanted to call it as a connected car. Because we had put 130 sensors in it. And we were just trying to say how I can call it a connected car. And Anand was insisting in that board meeting that, no, I'm going to call it as a green car. And okay, the car was launched. And I just want to share this story because it will be a very different kind of thought to all of you. So 130 plus sensors, an electric car driving with a battery. And we are launching at India Gate in New Delhi. All the ministers and everybody was there, but during that time, the UPA government didn't give any excise duty. The cost of that car was 7.5 lakh rupee. A 7.5 lakh rupee can have only 3 people in it. It can drive only for 100 kilometers, and if you won't have a charging station, you will be in a trouble. Okay. So while it was a technology marvel, it was everything good, green, electric, but nobody was buying it. So we created a technology. We created a technology which was good for the country as environment. We created a technology which was latest with all mobile apps and everything working, but nobody was buying it. So we were sitting in the room and we were saying what to do. And we found that the battery of the car was the highest cost. So you pay for every time you go for a petrol and a diesel in your vehicle. So how can I provide a battery as a service? And start charging my customers on a monthly basis. So the cost or the one-time cost of the car can become much cheaper because at that time, WagonR was 3.5 lakh rupee. Okay. For a 3.5 lakh rupee car and comparing it to the 7.5 lakh rupee, how can I sell? With no infrastructure on electric vehicles available in the country. So we started giving that battery as a service, and every 5 years, we'll replace it and we'll again start charging you for the battery. And now the car was selling. But then another problem happened, or another thing happened. One day, in our call center, which was monitoring all the vehicles running in the country, I don't know how many of you have gone through a call center. There is a very clear-cut script in which the call center person will talk. But on the monitor, he could see that there's a car standing in Jaipur, where the car is not moving, but the tire is moving. Okay? So he could not understand how can there is possibility that the car is not moving, but the tire is moving. So he called up. And he said, ma'am, it looks something went wrong. Are you stuck? Can I be of any help to you? And the reality was that lady was driving that car, and that car's tire, back tire, was in a pit. So the tire was moving, but the car was not moving. And we could provide the support. What I just want to tell you, that technology is not the only thing. We need to think about how can we make that sellable and usable to the end customer. But in today's world, with the machines are talking to machines, and we are having a digital world, the next thing which is so good is the customer service. How will you be able to use this data coming from these machines and provide the customer service? So it's technology, it's the business model, and the customer service. All these three things together will be able to help you to grow your business. So I just want to tell Sandhya ji that I have two daughters, and my elder one is doing electronics and communication, and she didn't go for computers because she wants to go for manufacturing. And my younger one is also planning. I have two daughters, and I know, like you, when you were standing here, the light switched on. So you are the light bearer. In my house also, I have two. So now I want to take you to a different kind of thought. The mankind arrived on this earth, as per the thoughts or as per the historians, is around 11,000 years back. How many years? 11,000 years back. But the first revolution, which is called the Industrial Revolution, happened in the early 1800s, that too in the Europe. So, and the second revolution, which was the communication, mobile and IT, internet, happened in 1990s. And the third revolution is when we are living now, when the machines are talking to machines, and we are having artificial intelligence, we are having different kind of data sets, and we are having so many robotics and many things. Now I tried to compare these three eras. So it took 11,000 years for the mankind to arrive, to come up with the first revolution. Now there is a possibility that you might start thinking that what is the difference between an invention and a revolution? Because fire happened, civilization started happening, wheels started happening, and I'm not calling them as revolution, but I will call them as inventions. When it's a revolution, three things happens. First, the technology changes and it creates the productivity improvement to the nth time. The second, there's a business model that gets changed, and the third, the society gets changed. Okay? When all these three things happen, then it is called a revolution. Otherwise, it's an invention. So the first revolution happened when the industry started happening in Europe. The second happened when the internet started coming. And the third, today, we are in the third revolution time when the machines have started talking to machines. Digital revolution. So it took 11,000 years for the first, but how many years for the second? How many years for the second? Less than 200 years. Correct? From 1800s, it was 1990s when the second revolution took place. But the third revolution took place in less than 20 years. So from 11,000 years, we reduced it to 200, and then we are talking about 20 years. How it can be possible? It is possible because the human brain is maturing much faster. And because the human brain is maturing much faster, I can guarantee some of us sitting in this room, parents and some of the faculty members, we have seen two revolutions. And most of you have arrived when the third revolution has already started. There will be many more revolutions, and the pace of these revolutions will be much more. And who will bring these revolutions? People sitting in this room. They are the people who are going to bring those more revolutions. And they are the people, you are the people who will be transforming. Now if I start comparing these three, during the first revolution, we were under the British rule. So when the factories started in Nottingham in England, nobody was telling us here in India that factory lagegi, you will lose your job. So all those charkha wala continued the charkhas, and suddenly there was. So nobody was skilling us, nobody was training us, nobody was telling us that something is happening and you will be losing your job. During the second revolution, we had our own government, and the current IT revolution is part of it. And today is the third revolution, as Sanjeev ji said 108 unicorns is the part of that third revolution. Okay. But let us focus on the second revolution again. We spoke about Satya Nadella. We also know who is the Google CEO? Who is the CEO of Google? Sundar Pichai, correct? When did they leave India? They left India during the second revolution. And even today, if you go to see Apple, Cisco, SAP, you find all of them. In their leadership team, there are people who have gone out of a country during the time of the second revolution. Why did they leave? Because at that time, we could not provide Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai, and leadership at that time, the young entrepreneurial minds to create something like, Microsoft in India. We didn't give them time and the resources to create Google in India. And that's why that happened there. Today, the country is providing that ecosystem and those resources so that we can create these 108 unicorns in our country. So you are at a perfect time, okay, when we can do it. I just want to tell you one more thing before I go to my next topic, okay. You all have heard of Kargil war? Heard of? Say yes or no. How many soldiers, Indian soldiers, died in that war? There were 543 Indian soldiers died on this war. And if you start thinking, why did they die? It was because the Pakistani soldiers has occupied the peaks. And we had to go and capture our peaks again. But I personally feel that's not true. It was not only Pakistan. Because during that time, the Prime Minister of India decided to give a call to the American president and ask him, what is the correct location of those Pakistani soldiers so that we can drop the bombs there? Because they were controlling the GPS, which is the positioning of those Pakistani soldiers, okay? He refused to provide us the exact location of the Pakistani soldiers. And that was the reason why our people had to travel from a different route and 543 people killed. So second organization or second group which were responsible for that 543 people dying is the United States of America not providing us the GPS information about where the soldiers are. But there's a third group also. And I personally go and meet and touch feet of Infosys, Narayan Murthy ji and Azim Premji. We were developing GPS for them. Our Indian IT industry was developing GPS for them. And we didn't plan it to make it for ourselves. I wish we could have done it at that time for ourselves also. And we could have created Microsoft for ourselves, IBMs for ourselves, Accentures for ourselves, Meta, Facebook, you name it. It's our people who are sitting there and making it. And we didn't do it. And that's the reason why I believe now you all have to start thinking in those lines. I give you another thought. The overall global spending in IT, because I am coming from the IT industry, is 8.2 trillion. How much? 8.2 trillion. You know how much is India exporting? As per NASSCOM, it is 200 billion. Out of 8.2 trillion, how much are we exporting? Only 200 billion. So the first question is, should we feel happy about that the second revolution, we are the SI country of the world? We are not. We are only making 200 billion out of the 8.2 trillion. So where does 8 trillion goes? 8 trillion goes for every laptop you buy, you pay 10,000 rupees to Microsoft for Windows. For every mobile you buy, you give some money for Google for Android. For every base platform comes from the United States or from Europe or from somebody, and we are just somebody who's making some apps on it. Now it's time when the country has started working on the UPI, which is our platform for financial transactions. We have our own CoWIN kind of application. We have our own Aadhaar stack on which we are developing number of applications. That's how we are at a base level. And when we think about, Sandhya ji was talking about the components. I was Lawam International's R&D and innovation head, and the electronic manufacturing used to run from me. We started working on each and every component and how that component can be manufactured in India. And for a feature phone, the whole design used to happen from India, and 70 to 80% of the components we were able to develop in our country. And that has to be the thought. Because if we want to become, third largest economy and grow further, we have to start thinking in terms of the base products and the base platform. And before that, it will not be possible for us. And that's what the thought should be for the future entrepreneurs, that we have to start thinking in the long-term sustainable revenues and not on the quick, risk-free profits, which maybe the IT industry of the country were doing, not thinking about a long-term sustainable revenue like Microsoft or Google. And they were thinking about how can I get my people built and get my more profitable work without any risk. So that thought process needs to change, and that's why I'm telling it to people sitting in this room, that unless you'll start thinking in the long-term sustainable revenue, things will not change, and we will not be able to do the third largest economy or 30 trillion economy by 2030. Now I want to tell you more about the artificial intelligence and what I am trying to do and many of us will be doing. Okay? When you think about artificial intelligence, there are 3-4 components. First is the data set. Second is the large language models, and then you compute and produce some results. If you go to ChatGPT and you're going to ask them, who was the founder of the atomic theory? They will say there was a person called John McCarthy or some other name from United Kingdom who worked in 1786 or some other year like 1800s who come out with the atomic theory. Okay? But we are creating something called a Bharatiya GPT with our own data sets, with our own LLM models, and which will be launched by the Honorable Prime Minister whenever the date will be. In the month of September, we are trying to launch it. When you ask the same question to Bharatiya GPT, it will tell you that 2,600 years back, there was somebody called Maharishi Karnad. Maharishi Karnad, in this particular text, in this particular shlok, wrote about this, which is the atomic theory, and the start of the atomic theory. It's a time for us to correct the narratives. It's time for us to tell the whole world about our history, our research, and our information, which has been lying everywhere, and we need to let the world know who we were and where we will be. We were the Vishwaguru, we are going to become the Vishwaguru, and there's nobody who can stop us because now there is a passion, now there's a leadership available to do that. And if you're going to ask DeepSeek, which is a Chinese LLM and data set, tell me more about Arunachal Pradesh. Okay? Do it. Take it as an exercise. The answer will be, I am not allowed to speak about this. Okay? Because it's an Indian state and there is a conflict. Now we need to create all the correct data, and that's what we have to work on. The last section of mine is more to you all to start thinking in something very different. Assuming you all have heard about our history book called Ramayana, and I'm not going to call it a mythology because it's not a myth, it's a history. And if you're all going to start thinking about Ramayana, and I'll ask and start asking questions on Ramayana, and then you'll start answering them. So Sita, staying in Ravan's Ashok Vatika, was she changing clothes? And if she was changing clothes, was she getting it from Ravan? She was in a human body. She was a lady. She was captured, and she was not packing her clothes while she was abducted. Correct? So was she changing her clothes while in the Ashok Vatika of Ravan? If answer is yes, then the answer has to be, where was she getting it from? Sahi question. The answer is, she was not taking clothes from Ravan. Because when they started the journey towards Vanvas, they had gone to the Bharadwaj Rishi's ashram in Prayagraj, where Atri Rishi's wife, Ansuya, had given her Divya Vastra, a technology-enabled textile, which could last for 14 years
without getting dirty or without getting torn. So Sita ji was wearing a textile which was technology-wise could last for 14 years without getting dirty and without getting broken or torn. Technology was that advanced. Today's textile technology is only for 10 days. If you go to Everest and you are going for a mountaineering, you have to start thinking, kitne kapde leke jaun? Then you're going to buy a special cloth which can last for 10 days without getting dirty. At that time, the technology was so advanced that it was 14 years. We need to start learning from our history. The Pushpak Viman, it was a driverless vehicle with the GPS control so strong that the person sitting on the passenger seat can say in the month, it was a man-machine communication. The GPS system was so strong. It was a driverless vehicle. It used to stand like against the gravity and used to move straight. The aviation industry was so strong at that time. We did a research. There were